Welcome, dear viewers of Cross View. At this time, we shall be getting to the second topic, which is, I believe, is similar to the first. So we shall be diverting and discussing. So at this time, we shall be discussing on the Republican democracy that is so much talked about of Cameroon. And the question is, who rules Cameroon? Is it politics or competence? Because there is a lot of complaint about the regime and so on. So we want to have the difference there, whether the positions people hold, what they do, it is due to their political connections or it is due to competence. At this time, I want to begin with U.S.A. coup. At this time, it is high time we start getting things direct. If you look at Cameroon today, anytime we want to interview some of these big guns in the government, they talk of the Republican nature of the country. Now, if you look at it, is it politics that rules Cameroon or competence that rules Cameroon?
Cameroon is being governed. I like using the word governed than rule.
Okay.
Cameroon is being governed by politics and not competence. For example, Cameroon is one of the countries that when we think about it, it gives you reasons to lament. Because if you see like ministers, the appointment of ministers, you see people who don't understand anything in a certain field are being made minister to govern. You see they will carry somebody who read, or I should say medical doctor, and make him minister of transport. They will carry somebody who did economics and financing and make him minister of health. So when you look at that thing, you start seeing that competency is totally an option that is ruled out. You see that in Cameroon, most of the time, things are being done as a means of compensation. You want to compensate your friends, you want to put your friends in position. That's why in the middle of the discussion, I said, the time has come that power is no longer money in the hands of some few individuals, but information in the hands of many. That is why when I keep talking that there will be a revolution, like you asked me, I said the revolution has already started because there have already been a mental revolution. One singer of an inspirational singer says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, and not by yourself can free your mind. So I want to say that there is already going to be a mental revolution. Today, if we are seeing the proactiveness of young people into politics, is because why? We believe that those things have to be corrected. They have to be an amendment. We want to think that Cameroon needs a reformation. Cameroon needs a redefinition of how a modern state with people should be. We say that Cameroon needs a state of which people should not be living like they are outcasts or they are foreigners into their own land. So these are all the reformation I want to say because of the politics of tribalism. Like we see parties come in, say they want to take over Cameroon, and you see 90% of such parties are made up by tribal men. You see even appointment done from such party who claim that they are going to have street protests. 90% of their appointees of the head position are tribal men. You have subordinates, that is their assistants coming. You want to see people who are talking about street protests and other. You want to see even in their appointment, Anglophones even in their executive setup does not hold top position in the appointment. They are acting as second-class appointees, that is assistants. So these are all the things we were saying that Cameroon needs a reformation strata. That's why I say that many politicians have studied just from CPDM, and none of them has gone away from CPDM mentality. They still have that CPDM kind thought of mind. That is why when we say a burning of a true revolution, which means Cameroon is going to be moved away from that system they know. I want to be candid with you. They may deny this, they may wage war against that, but I want to say 80% or 95% of politicians in Cameroon have learned from the strategy of Pierre, and they have nothing to give back to Cameroonians. That is why we say that the youth will take their destinies into their hand. They will not allow a swamp to drain a swamp. When they are coming, the swamp will totally drain. Whether a swamp that seems could not swallow a human being, could take only half part of a human being, swamp is swamp and will be drained. And the right time, we believe they are pushing towards it. People have been asking that. We want to say that we may have been in the public figure for so long that some people think we have out. We will catch up with the time. I want to say that if we will catch up with that time to spend only 5 years or 3 years in activeness in transforming this, that power will no longer be in the corridors of power, but in power itself. we will leave the stage where we shall be mentors and godfathers. So the aspect of godfatherism, to keep the status, the belief of equity in a new nation that is born with equality of each and every person, is the Cameroonian nation we look forward to. Where the Anglophone persons will not be seen again as a second-class citizen, but will be seen in equal right in all ramifications as Cameroonians. That is a kind of reformation we are talking. And there is no swamp that is going to give that. So no swamp can call for a protest.
Mr.
So people should not get to the street because a swamp cannot drain a swamp.
What's your view about the democratic nature of Cameroon nowadays? Is it a perfect one? How do you rate it?
I will tackle the question from two ends. Saying that the manner at which our constitution takes that two entities came together with equal rights. They made the both languages very dynamic. And on this, we're supposed to be appointing ministers and other state personnel on meritocracy. But if you hear some of our politicians, they are based, they have a mastery of just one language. If we go in terms of villages, you understand that there's a particular village or sub-region in this country where that is where all the ministers emulate from. I haven't been a critical politician in the making, because life is a continuous process. It was on this same issue that the 32% verbal that was missing, that up to today Professor Maurice Kamto is holding up to, and which he cried at the Constitutional Council because he was put to book, and he cried for the same question, that what is the concours that one can write to become a Betis? What is the concours that one can write to become a Bulu? Because apparently if that concours is out, some of us would really love to partake or participate in the writing session, because we see gross marginalization in this area. When you go to the military, there is a particular tribe. I don't know if they are trying to impress that tribe. You find only them in the military. Now, I want to also say that you find some ministers in this country which, because they stood out to protect a particular individual, they are ministers today. But to prove it to you that they are not competent enough before giving the ministerial duty, they set house that has been managed for decades, for years, by one minister, ought to be split. You find ministers which could not manage a common university strike, were uplifted to the height of managing a ministerial position. I want to say here that you find other ministers who come on stage talking, preaching of Republican values, but which they know they can't protect, live up to expectation of Republican values. One of the ministers, when shared a common ministry with his own brother, they had to go on segregated ways for a very long time. They want to say Cameroon has to move ahead. We need to correct the odds.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Njomo Cyril, if you look at the democratic nature of Cameroon, as it is said, it's a Republican country and very democratic. Now, what's your take about all this? Because we had just celebrated the Day of Democracy. And so we, on this set, we shall be looking at the democracy in Cameroon. What's your take about the whole system?
Thanks, Mr. Mambo. There are two concepts that one can devolve from the topic Republican. First, there should be a state. Yes. And that state should be within democracy. Okay. And when we talk of a state, because I want to focus on the aspect to tackle you have national unity, and you have, following the 1996 law, the decentralization that extends to the region and the local councils. There are some institution that has been erected to cater for national unity, which decentralization has come up also as a tool to hold the national unity, so that the republic, remember the social contract of Plato, so that the republic can stand, the state can stand. So to understand why people take sides and sometimes not merit is to maintain themselves, to reflect that opinion of social contract, to reflect that opinion of legality and legitimacy that will help them to stay there and represent the republic. This question is very profound. Maybe when asking you thought it was a joke. And so, those very weapons are gradually being transferred to cater for the decentralized units, which instead is asking for a different solution. Decentralized units are asking that the majority, especially the grassroots, should move up to the level to manage public affairs. Meanwhile, at the unitary states, you elect through a universal suffrage a president that gives privileges to those that he thinks that champion his campaign or best understand his manifesto. And you are asking me whether the action of those actors that have been chosen by their champion is backing the Republican value, or they are simply using the Republican status quo that they represent to lure the people on their needs. And I will immediately jump for the second hypothesis. That's exactly what they are doing. They understand practically. And it's not our making. I'm sorry to tell you that if we have to go further, you will see that democracy was not an issue of Africa. It is a concept that has been shipped to us, and with modalities, if not what called for multipartism in the 90s. It's certainly because there was a wind of change across Europe, and they thought that since they have their hinterlands in Africa, they need to come and give a new order in Africa. And those who do not stand, the wind wipe them off. So I'm convoking all this epoch to help you understand that even if another party comes up today, don't be surprised to see those who will hold ministerial position act in a very way. Why? Because truly, and that is where the Anglophones struggle become most relevant. It has to go now with the system that is being practiced. If we are in an indirect rule system, common people will have more access, easy access to the management of their community affairs. But if we keep on with this direct rule system where the central has a lot of power, and even when they want to develop that power, they make sure that they have a school like ENAM that train local administrators that are still going to carry the same mentality. And that's where my fear is coming with this national school that has just popped off. It is still a school that is intended to mold up local authorities. And if their molding up is going to reflect what ENAM have given us for the past 62 years or so, I don't know, maybe 60 years or so, then I want to tell you, dear friend, we are a long way to go into this rigmarole. To summarize the long talk, our ministers or our authorities, what they say is they cut the law and shape it to reflect their lifestyle. And they do that purposefully to maintain their hegemony, their system, their regime, and that's why you can see a country like Cameroon with 37 years, and people are still saying that no, it's not yet time.
Okay, let me come to you, Sekufo. With all evidence, all of you here have talked against the government. It's not very democratic. It's not a Republican, it's not a Republican government. Now, do you think it is high time you start keeping the same system going and going? Don't you think that it keeps on bringing down the country?
Mr. Mwambo, I hope you're not trying to trick me into the protest ideology, because the line of your question, you were trying to trick me along the line. I will tell you, I said it, I will maintain it, and I will insist on what I am saying, that revolution is already going on. And so we are seeing that a little or no time, change will occur. Because why? Free the mind, and every other thing will follow.
Can you brief us on this revolution?
The aspect is that spiritualists will tell you that the spiritual world defines what happens in the physical. That is why anything that comes into actualization happens first from the mind. The first thing, we are feeling the African minds and the Cameroonian mentality of the young people that they can do it. And to say they can do it, I want to say they are doing it. I'm sitting with co-panelists that are young men, and they are running very wonderful institutions, and they are doing great. They can do it. So if they are doing great in different aspects of businesses, they will not do bad in governance. So when we talk about the revolution, it's because why? If you get into Cameroon at the moment, it may shock you that youth are rising into entrepreneurship platforms day in, day out. So if you want to look in the sequence of how it is going, the youth will soon dominate the economic trajectory in Cameroon.
What's the part being played by the youth, the women in the democracy of this country? Because if we look at it, there's always a cry that the women don't have, they don't have the voice, the youths are just there.
There is one thing I want to say about women. This thing will bring me back to talk about feminism. I like to give lectures only when I'm being paid, but let me dish this out shortly. It will bring me on the aspect of feminism. You see, many women out there cry, their cry is that they want to be equal. Feminism is not a woman being equal to a man. Okay. Feminism is not gender competition. Feminism is self-projection. When you do a self-projection, people will not undermine you. If a woman becomes a medical doctor, there is no way somebody will undermine her, or she will pass somewhere without somebody knowing this is a medical doctor. So when they're talking about feminism, because in yesteryears, men did not become head because we're born as head. The ability of a man to provide for the house automatically earn him that position. So when we are talking feminism, we are talking about you projecting yourself to be seen.
Because I'm asking you are head of a youth movement.
Yes.
And so there has been that complaint for over decades.
That is why I started by telling you that I hate giving free lectures. You get me? Yeah. Why do I say like this? Because these are things we teach. You understand me? I want to say that in organization I lead, there are young ladies. I have a PA. My PA is a young lady.
Okay, we can understand why you laughed.
No. Mr. Moderator, it's just because my co-panelist brought you more into it, I just have to flow. My PA is a lady.
Yeah.
You get me? Yeah. The manager to my business is a lady.
I'm very close to you.
So what I'm saying is this: we are talking that there is an ability that you project yourself that no person can ignore or snub your presence. Your presence per se command respect. Your presence per se speak for itself. So that is what we are saying when we talk about women. Women should not be crying that we are gender biased. Men, even men who are not making it well, no person knows about them. They are behind the background. So if you're a woman, you must put yourself in a situation that you must be approved. You must put yourself in a situation that you must be projected, that you can be seen. How do you project yourself to be seen? Taking ideologies, politics is not just meant for men.
Okay.
That is why we are seeing a young lady running in for presidential election for Ivory Coast. So these are women who are putting projection, they are projecting themselves, and that is the same thing. I want to say the strength of the youth movement is made up of ladies and gentlemen. We are looking at a Republican
Cameroon, a democratic Cameroon. Let's try and look at maybe the elections body of the country. We look at the appointments of youths and women, especially. What's your take? Is it really democratic or Republican?
Mr. Mambo, you know, I don't twist my words or I don't smuggle words on there. For Cameroon is an exemplary country when it comes to women empowerment.
Yeah. Let's start with the body that's in charge of elections in connivation with the government. Is it a kind of democratic kind of system or a democratic kind of a house or office according to from the time they started working?
Well, the constitution that governs the house may have some loopholes. The members of the house are honorable members from all angles. So that is to say, for a body like that must have a mindset of people who understand the Republican values, who have worked in different areas of nation building. And I want to say here that looking at the house ahead to other areas, the house is okay. Now, the lapses of the house comes not from the ballot papers they make, not from the police station, but when these ballot boxes are carried back and to be transported to the Elecam house, that is where a lot of mismanagement occurs. But for the Elecam body, they are doing well, to my own personal
opinion. So democratically,
yes,
the body is well formed. But some people complain that the way they organize elections, like when there was the senatorial elections, people complained that there was supposed to be municipal before senatorial, and the constitution that guards elections in Cameroon, the people have been complaining a lot.
Well, we all know. I won't hide facts, because if I hide facts, definitely some panelists will prove me wrong. I said that there are honorable members at the boards in the house, but at times when people force their agenda on the house, it becomes a problem. And Cameroon, with the state at which we are, where we are ranked as one of the poorest countries around the world, when people force their motive for you to accomplish, we all know that some ballot boxes did not get to some areas. People were complaining of voting rights. These are some of the drawbacks of the house. But for the electoral, the coalition,
are they forced to take imposed decisions?
In every country, it is the ruling party that constitutes
Mr. Pobetran, democratically, are you free in your country?
Of course, I'm a free man.
Are you free democratically? Can you talk freely what you have to say anywhere, anytime?
I would like to tell you that in 1988 or 28, like that, President Ejo brought in the one-party system. But democratically, President Pobia came back and uplifted it. That was when
democratically
President Pobia came back and brought multi-party system in 1992.
Okay.
So we all know that when this law came in, the draconic law, there was no press freedom, there was no freedom of association. And we are enjoying it today. That is to tell you that we're in a democratic environment. And it's my opinion.
But you call it draconial kind of law.
Yeah, that was practiced
okay.
by the let me finish my point before some people misinterpret me on this panel. It was practiced by the past government that was headed by President Amatu.
Okay, no more draconial.
For now, I don't see draconial anymore.
Mr. Njomo Cyril, if we look at the electoral system, the laws in Cameroon, and so on, we shall be taking a bend to this topic. Do you see a Republican country that has a democratic formulation?
No. It's an opposition. You must see from its own angle.
No, it doesn't mean an opposition cannot say the right thing.
As I was trying to explain previously, Mr. Moderator, our issue, and it's not peculiar to Cameroon, is that democracy was not part of our ways. we have been used to chiefdom, kingdoms, and even in our family setup, there's a highly patriarchal mindset
that make the subject to submit solely to the
Can you imagine, for example, just to dilute the discussion a bit, that in Bamenda, before now, some 60 years ago, when a traditional ruler died, he has to be buried with 4 other people at life. His corpse does not have to touch the floor. So that is a kind of system where we have inherited or where we come from. So I want just to pinch like iota of salt. I just want to pinch it a bit to say that truly democratic values are very dynamic. What you call Republican today, the U.S., that appears to be the gendarme of the world, from day to day have its own flaws that is being watched by other people. Just that your economic position does not give you that credibility. Yeah. First of all, we are not part of the Security Council, and if we want to raise some issue about our democratic style, we are very limited. They are the only people that can pinpoint lapses on our system, support by their financial and military weapons and materials, and all those things. So I just want to seize this opportunity again to call on our viewers that democracy is a very difficult concept. Especially even if you see the way we live in our families. It's not always that we want to listen to the woman even when she's right. We naturally will believe that they have certain responsibilities, and when they are discharging it, they should not be making a lot of noise. Well, when a woman becomes of age and of education and start raising issue on those menial jobs like house chores. So when it becomes a debate in the house, you start thinking about of an alternative, which is not supposed to be like that. So I'm bringing this element because you started questioning about the role of the women, their quota. There is a document in this country that the strategic paper for development and so that was brought up to guide the work towards Vision 2035. And in that paper, there was an aspect of creating a ministry that was to help guide the pathway to reinforce family setup, because street children emancipate from poor families or divided families, and also help the socio-professional integration of women and help them also to ascend the leadership position in political arena. But all this in a highly patriarchal system, that is a system that have not favored the women emancipation and mainstreaming, and have not respected all the protocol on feminism. To say that it will take a long time, but we will definitely reach there. And that's why I want to borrow from one of the panelists on the platform who said, when a woman, raise herself to a certain standard, you have no other option than to respect her and give her the leeway. We have had position, for example, women in church being elders. Before now, women were not pastors in certain denomination. Before now, women were not ascending certain position. If it had to take some time for Cameroon to have the first minister as a woman.
For more than 50 years, is it enough?
So personally, I think it's not because you have 60% of women as ministers that shows that you advance in democracy. But I think that because they are 51% or even more of the Cameroonian population, they need to increase their quotas in every sphere of life so that it can also increase their opinion.
Yeah, I just want to talk. I haven't said anything about Cameroon and the Republican democracy. First and foremost, I want to differ a little bit with my co-panelist, Mr. Njomo. Democracy stems from an African root. But now, it will give from what angle are you seeing democracy? For example, he made a citation of it was an African tradition, a king should be buried with, some women be buried with 2 wives, 2 bodyguards, pots, machete, spear, that is going to the next world. He needs the wife along, he needs his bodyguard because he's still going to be a king. But let me tell you how Africa has been practicing democracy. For example, Ghana has been a center of democracy before the Western world came in. What they just did is to give us the terminology as a modern language we are using today as English as the word democracy. If you get back in the African traditional system of governance, before That's why you have what they call the kingmakers. That's why when the chief sits in council, he sits with elders. These elders are drawn from each and every family within that village. That's democracy.
Yeah, now you come to this. We are talking of the setting of Cameroon. Now you come to Inda. That is indirect rule.
No,
I'm coming. We had indirect rule.
I'm coming. Africa as a nation state stem up from villages to town and the rest. So when we are talking about democracy, we are talking about our roots. So to say, if you say democracy is foreign, it means it was something that new to Africa. We want to say the way of which democracy has been explained, or the way we have been tutored to carry out democracy, is different from the democracy that was practiced in Africa. We want to say democracy is not a new concept in Africa. That's why I'm citing you an example like this, that kings sit with kingmakers, they sit with elders in council. Elders in council are drawn from each and every. Why are they elders in council? Because decision needs to be deliberated. And there are times the decision is being deliberated. A vote is made in council. There are times when a village wants to go to war, these elders in council will sit to look at the authenticity why the village has to go to war.
Let's talk in content now. Do you see belonging to maybe the council or the belonging, being a minister or being, do you have the voice? Because belonging doesn't mean you have the voice.
You mean in Cameroon?
Yeah, we are talking the content of
Cameroon. That the Cameroonian minister have voice? Do they have voice to talk?
Okay.
No, I want to know. I don't want you to situate me. I will not answer your question when I am not rightly situated. Are you saying Cameroonian minister, do they have voice to say out their opinion? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, the citizens and so on, that democratic value.
Yeah, Cameroon, irrespective of the lapses Cameroon is having, Cameroon is one of the countries in Africa that have freedom of expression, freedom of speech granted in Cameroon. Without it, I want to say that even programs like this would not have been hosted.
Mr. Pope, Bertrand, I want to thank you so very much for coming for the program today.
Thank you, Mr. Monitor. It's been a lovely period with the other co-panelists. I appreciate your professionalism, and we wish that will continue in the same light. We disagree to agree, and so be it with a better nation we are all trying to be.
Thank you so very much for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njomo Williams, for inviting me to this wonderful program. You have been a wonderful moderator. Permit me conclude by saying that you listen to my voice. Don't get to the street. A swamp can't drink a swamp. Don't kill yourself. It is a wrong fight they are dragging you into. Save yourself, for there are much better days ahead, and you're going to put a fight sooner or later. That will be a fight for your own generation, not fighting for an old person who should be a godfather giving you ideas on how to run this errand. Thank you very much, Mr. Njomo.
Mr. Njomo Cyril, thank you for coming.
Thanks, one of the finest moderators that Cameroon is having. We want to thank you, dear viewers, for watching. If through our various interventions we have some lapses or some insults, please pardon our manners. It gets a time when we get emotion and such feeling can come up, can arise without us noticing. But in us, when we realize ourselves, we always come back to make peace reign, because if a moderator can invite panelists from different frameworks, it's because he believes sincerely that it is only when we bring opposite ideas that it can form something good, and that's what we were trying to do tonight.
Dear viewers, thank you so very much for being faithful. I want to thank all those who have made this program to be a success. I've been Moderator Njomo Williams. See you next time.